Okay. Fair enough. And it's an important question because the biggest problem with this team last year, and nothing is close, was they were horrendous against the run. 32nd in DVOA, bad in just about every metric, except for the explosives, the Giants and the Bengals and stuff were worse. But they were manhandled at the line of scrimmage. Felt like every third and short was automatic. So I think that's why I want to focus here on the nose and the front, because my question for you is, can this defense be better against the run? Because last year that was ultimately their undoing. So this is interesting. Personnel wise, you have added some defensive linemen, pass rushers, Bradley Chubb, TJ Parker, player they drafted, really like him. Greg Rousseau's still the, old reliable. Linebacker route remains Dorian Williams, Terrell Bernard, but they did draft Caleb Elarms-Orr. Corners, pretty much the same. Benford, Hairston, Taron Johnson's gone now, though, and we'll talk about that in a second. D. Alford at nickel. They drafted the Ohio State corner, Igbonason. And then safeties, Cole Bishop, still there. TJ Gardner-Johnson added. Most notably, not most notably, but very notably, new defensive coordinator, new defense. And I think this is so interesting. So Jim Leonhard comes over from Denver. He is a guy who really, really smart people around the league have been talking about for a long time as like the next dude, like one of what he did in college. Nate Tice, friend of the show, loves him. He was in Wisconsin for a bit. So he has a very, very exciting reputation for Bills fans. But also, I bring some questions, which I'll start here. They're switching to a 3-4. Uh-huh. Will be multiple. What does that mean? Whatever. It does, however, raise questions for me when I look at this depth chart, which is, do they have a nose?
Oh man, that is
because you got a lot of like Ed Oliver, who I love. Mm-hmm. T.J. Sanders, Deion Walker. I guess Landon Jackson's probably going to play more outside linebacker, right?
I think he might kick into one of like the actual like a 4-eye, like a traditional defensive end that he's going to put on more weight and do.
Okay, fair enough. And it's an important question because the biggest problem with this team last year, and nothing is close, was they were horrendous against the run. 32nd in DVOA, bad in just about every metric, except for the explosives, the Giants and the Bengals and stuff were worse. But they were manhandled at the line of scrimmage. Felt like every third and short was automatic. So I think that's why I want to focus here on the nose and the front, because my question for you is, can this defense be better against the run? Because last year that was ultimately their undoing.
It was their undoing. To also throw another stat out there, they were 32nd in yards after contact per rush allowed at 3.93. That's the highest per next gen of any defense since 2019. So absolutely terrible. That's the question. Can they stop the run? And if they do, how? Jim Leonhard comes on, and one of the first times he speaks, he talks about, how you build the defense, the kind of the MO or the starting point is stopping the run. And knowing they were moving to more of an odd front base, although again, multiple, we're still going to see nickel, we're still going to see 4 down, all that stuff. But knowing what the Bills have been, to your point, knowing that they were going to be more multiple, I expected some nose addition. I hoped for someone like Roy Lopez or Kyrus Tonga, or it could have been just anybody. It could have been a 1-year, $3 million role player. Brandon Beane has talked before multiple years in a row about how those roles are so easy to acquire, yet he continues not to get one, which makes you think he doesn't value it. I think if they're going to stop the run, it's going to have to be with more of a movement-based, schemed-up type of attack, courtesy of Jim Leonhard, which is possible. You can operate with run blitzes and run stunts in games and try and cut things off and make an offense run through a phone booth and play in that. But there is a risk reward. If you call the wrong rush at the wrong time or the wrong game, you're caught out, and all of a sudden a hole becomes an alley that you could drive a bus through and you're screwed. I just don't look at this front right now and see, whether it's TJ Sanders or Landon Jackson at one, 4-eye spot, and then kicking it into Deion Walker at nose, Ed Oliver at the other. Your bookends are fine with the edge grouping. I just don't see how you have a lot of point of attack strength on the interior with guys who are just not going to get moved. At a certain point, you have to be able to withstand teams trying to run through your face. And that's going to be the big question. And for as much as people have pointed to Leonard's time in Wisconsin and were like, oh, like one of his best noses was Keanu Benton. And Keanu Benton can move and slash. You go watch the tape. And for as much as they're doing movement stuff, Keanu Benton and the rest of the guys on that front, they're playing gap and a half. They're two gapping. They're playing at the point of attack and holding strong and dropping the knee and splitting double teams or reducing surface area. Similar thing in Denver. People pointing like, oh, DJ Jones isn't a monster. DJ Jones can play the run. Like
He's very good against the run. Yeah. I was just about to mention him because I was pulling up the so Denver's defense was top 5 against the run, success rate, all that. They allowed 1.98 yards before contact per carry last year, which was second best in the NFL. The Bills were 27th in that metric. So, right. Like when we think about Denver and that defense, we think about all the blitzing and the pressure and the speed and the man coverage. But the run defense is the foundation on which that, allowed them to do all of that.
What if the one move that could completely change the Buffalo Bills defense is sitting in Philadelphia right now, wearing number 98, carrying the kind of power that makes quarterbacks feel pressure before the ball is even snapped? Bills Mafia, lock in, because this is the kind of conversation that sounds wild at first, but the deeper you look, the more dangerous it becomes. Jalen Carter to Buffalo. Not confirmed, not official, not a report saying Brandon Beane already has a deal on the table, but as a dream trade scenario, as a championship swing, as the kind of aggressive move that says the Bills are done being close and ready to attack the AFC, man, this one hits different. And here's why this conversation has juice. Jalen Carter is not just another defensive tackle. He is a pocket destroyer. He is an interior force. He's the type of player who can wreck the entire timing of an offense without needing a blitz, without needing a perfect call, without needing everything around him to be clean. When Carter wins inside, the quarterback has nowhere to step up. And when a quarterback cannot step up, edge rushers start eating. That is how you expose quarterbacks. That is how you turn elite passes into uncomfortable passes. That is how you make a third down feel like a trap. Now think about Buffalo's defense. Ed Oliver attacking from the inside. Greg Rousseau bringing length and power off the edge. Bradley Chubb bringing veteran heat. Young bodies like Deion Walker and TJ Sanders trying to grow into roles. Now imagine Jalen Carter dropped right in the middle of that storm. Come on now, that is not just a defensive line. That is a problem with a pulse. That is the kind of front that makes offensive coordinators rewrite the game plan before halftime. And Bills Mafia, this is not about chasing shiny names just to make noise. This is about fixing the kind of issue that matters in January. The Bills can score. Josh Allen can put the cape on. We know that. Allen's got fire in his veins every time the lights get bright. But how many times have we watched Buffalo need one more stop, one more pressure, one more bad throw forced by the defense? That is where Jalen Carter changes the math. He does not just add talent, he changes the way offenses have to survive. Picture Patrick Mahomes dropping back and the middle of the pocket caves in. Picture Joe Burrow trying to scan the field, but Carter is already walking a guard into his lap. Picture Lamar Jackson trying to escape, but the edge is contained because the interior is collapsing. Picture the AFC East trying to run the ball, and suddenly there's a 300-pound nightmare blowing up the line of scrimmage. That is the vision. That is the dream. That is the kind of violence up front that makes a defense travel, even in bad weather, even in playoff pressure, even when the whole season is sitting on one drive. Now, let's be honest, this would not be easy. Philadelphia has Carter under control. They know what he is. They know players like this do not just appear every offseason. So if the Eagles ever listened, the price would be serious. Draft capital, contract planning, cap gymnastics, real decisions. This is not a casual move. This is a push-the-table-forward move. But Bills Mafia championship windows demand uncomfortable conversations. Josh Allen is not a future idea. He is now. This roster is not building for 5 years from now. This team is trying to finish the job now. And that's where Brandon Beane has to be dangerous. Not reckless, dangerous. There's a difference. Reckless means throwing away the future without a plan. Dangerous means identifying a rare player who can raise the ceiling of your team and asking the question nobody else wants to ask. What would it take? Could we make it work? Would this be the move that finally gives Josh Allen the defensive monster he deserves? Because if Jalen Carter ever became available, even through a tiny crack in the door, the Buffalo Bills should be watching. This is the kind of player who lets Jim Lenhard get aggressive. Simulated pressures become nastier. Creepers become harder to read. Blitz packages become more dangerous because the offense already has to commit extra attention inside. You want to protect against Carter? Fine. Now Rousseau gets space. You slide protection toward the edge? Fine. Carter attacks the guard one-on-one. Pick your poison. That is what elite interior defenders do. They make every answer feel wrong. And let's talk attitude. Jalen Carter already showed he can bring chaos in the NFC East. Now imagine that chaos in Buffalo, in front of Bills Mafia, in cold weather, with Highmark Stadium shaking, with Josh Allen on the sideline waiting for one more possession. That is not just football. That is a warning to the league. Buffalo would not be asking politely anymore. Buffalo would be kicking the door open and saying, "You want to beat us? Survive this front first." My final take is simple. If Jalen Carter is truly untouchable, fine, you move on. But if contract pressure, roster decisions, or trade calls ever create even the smallest opening, the Buffalo Bills have to be alert. Not because they are desperate, but because they are close, and close teams need closers. Carter is a closer on the defensive line. He can destroy pockets, expose quarterbacks, punish run games, and make every snap feel heavier for the offense. Bills Mafia, this is the kind of dream move that gets the blood pumping. Josh Allen leading the offense, Jalen Carter wrecking the middle, Rousseau and Chubb attacking from the edges, Ed Oliver bringing chaos beside him. That is a defense built for January. That is a team built to scare the AFC. So now I want your opinion. Would you give up serious draft capital to bring Jalen Carter to Buffalo, or is the price too high for even a superstar defensive tackle? Drop your take in the comments. Hit that like button if you want the Bills to stay aggressive, and subscribe to Buffalo Blitz Report for daily Bills news, rumors, reactions, and real Bills Mafia energy. We ride together, win or lose, and nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.